Throughout the history of humanity, the Bible has fascinated millions of people with its deep and complex narratives that transcend time and space. Within its pages, it reveals not only the teachings and spiritual principles that guide the lives of believers, but also the presence of supernatural beings who play crucial roles in the divine narrative. These beings, ranging from angels and demons to mythical figures like the Nephilim, are manifestations of spiritual realities that impact the history and faith of people. In this journey, we will thoroughly explore these 7 supernatural beings that appear in the scriptures, analyzing their symbolism, their impact on humanity, and the lessons they offer about the relationship between the divine and the earthly. As we delve into this fascinating topic, we will discover not only their nature and functions, but also the profound significance they hold in the context of faith and spirituality. 1. Seraphim. The seraphim are described in Isaiah 6:2-3 as celestial beings with 6 wings, standing around the throne of God, proclaiming His holiness. Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. The whole earth is full of His glory. They represent the purity and majesty of God, serving as guardians of His holiness. These angelic beings have an impressive and symbolic appearance. With 2 wings, they cover their faces in reverence to the divine glory. With another 2, they cover their feet, indicating humility and modesty. And with the last 2, they fly, ready to fulfill God's will. The tripling of the word holy emphasizes God's perfection and complete holiness, a fundamental concept in Judaism and Christianity. This continuous hymn of the seraphim not only exalts God, but also resonates throughout the heavens, reminding all beings of the supremacy and purity of the Creator. The seraphim appear only once in the Bible, yet their presence is extremely significant within the context of Isaiah's vision. They are closely linked to Isaiah's prophetic calling. When he sees the seraphim, he immediately becomes aware of his own imperfection and impurity, crying out, "Woe to me! I am lost, for I am a man of unclean lips." In response, one of the seraphim flies to him, holding a burning coal taken from the altar with tongs, touching his lips and declaring his purification. "See, this has touched your lips. Your guilt is taken away, and your sin atoned for." This symbolic act of purification illustrates the role of the seraphim as agents of divine grace and holiness. They not only proclaim God's holiness, but also serve as instruments of His mercy and purification. This vision emphasizes the need for purity and preparation to be in God's presence, a central theme in biblical theology. The seraphim have also influenced Christian and Jewish iconography and literature over the centuries, often depicted in religious art as majestic, ethereal beings radiating light. Their image inspires reverence and admiration, reminding the faithful of God's transcendence and immutability. Therefore, the seraphim are not only impressive celestial figures, but also bearers of profound spiritual truths. They teach us about God's holiness, the necessity of purification, and the nature of divine service. In reflecting on the seraphim, we are invited to contemplate God's majesty and seek a life of purity and dedication to divine service. 2. Cherubim. Cherubim are first mentioned in Genesis 3:24 when God places cherubim and a flaming sword to guard the way to the tree of life. They also appear in Exodus, adorning the Ark of the Covenant, and in Ezekiel, where they are described as creatures with 4 faces and wings. Cherubim symbolize the presence and protection of the divine. From their first mention, cherubim play a crucial role in the biblical narrative. In Genesis, they are designated as guardians of Eden, preventing access to the tree of life after the fall of man. This image of protection and custody is essential to understanding their symbolism. They are defenders of holiness and divine order, ensuring that God's commandments are respected. In the book of Exodus, the cherubim are sculpted in gold and placed on the mercy seat of the Ark of the Covenant, which contained the tablets of the law. The Ark served as the meeting point between God and Moses, where the divine presence was manifested. The cherubim, with their outstretched wings covering the mercy seat, symbolize God's dwelling among His people and the protection of His sacred covenant. The position and function of the cherubim in the Ark reinforce the idea that they are intermediaries between God and humanity, guardians of His divine presence. In the book of Ezekiel, the cherubim are described in an impressive vision with 4 faces, that of a man, a lion, an ox, and an eagle, and 4 wings, each touching the wings of the adjacent creature. These four faces represent the fullness of creation and the breadth of God's power. The man symbolizes intelligence, the lion bravery, the ox strength, and the eagle swiftness. Additionally, they possess wheels full of eyes, symbolizing God's omniscience and constant vigilance over the world. The complexity and richness of this description highlight the multifaceted nature of the cherubim and their role as powerful and enigmatic beings, reflecting God's glory and mystery. Cherubim also appear in the temple built by Solomon, where their figures adorn the Holy of Holies, once again reinforcing their role as guardians of divine holiness. They serve as a constant reminder of God's protective presence and closeness to His people. In Christian iconography, cherubim are often represented as childlike angels, with wings and serene expressions, although the biblical description is much more complex and majestic. These celestial beings maintain a continuous and significant presence in religious tradition, symbolizing both the proximity and inaccessibility of God. They remind us that, while God is close to us, there exists a holiness and perfection that transcends human understanding. The cherubim, with their mission to protect and serve, inspire us to recognize and respect divine holiness in our daily lives. 3. Leviathan. Leviathan is a sea creature described in Job 41 and in Psalm 74:14. It is depicted as a powerful monster of the sea, invincible and terrifying. The Leviathan symbolizes chaos and the untamed power of creation, demonstrating that only God can dominate such a creature. The Leviathan is one of the most enigmatic and powerful figures in biblical literature, often associated with primordial chaos. In Job 41, the detailed description of Leviathan paints a picture of a truly formidable creature. It possesses impenetrable scales, fearsome teeth, and breathes fire and smoke. This description not only highlights its invincibility, but also the terrifying and chaotic nature of the Leviathan. The creature is so powerful that no human can expect to dominate or subdue it. This sea monster represents the untamed forces of nature that can only be controlled by the Creator. In Psalm 74:14, Leviathan is mentioned in the context of celebrating God's victory over the forces of evil and chaos. You crushed the heads of Leviathan. You gave it as food to the creatures of the desert. Here, the Leviathan symbolizes the forces of evil that God has conquered, reinforcing the idea that despite its formidable power, it is subject to divine authority. The defeat of Leviathan is a metaphor for God's ultimate victory over evil and disorder, reaffirming to the faithful God's supreme power and justice. In addition to its theological symbolism, the Leviathan has been interpreted in various ways throughout history. Some scholars view it as a representation of real sea creatures, such as the crocodile or whale, which are widely known and feared for their terrifying characteristics. Others interpret the Leviathan as an allegory for the oppressive and chaotic powers in society against which the people of God struggle. In Isaiah 27:1, the Leviathan is mentioned again, where it is described as a fleeing serpent that will be punished by God at the end of times, symbolizing the final defeat of the forces of evil. This eschatological vision reinforces the message that, in the end, divine justice and order will prevail over chaos. Therefore, the Leviathan is much more than a terrifying creature. It is a personification of the chaotic and untamed forces of creation that only God can control. Its presence in the Scriptures serves as a powerful reminder of God's supreme dominion over all things and the certainty that ultimately divine order will triumph over chaos. 4. Behemoth. Behemoth is mentioned in Job 40:15-24 as a gigantic and powerful creature, often interpreted as a hippopotamus or elephant. It symbolizes the strength and magnitude of God's creation, representing the majesty and divine power manifested in nature. The description of Behemoth in the book of Job offers an impressive vision of the grandeur of this creature. In responding to Job, God highlights Behemoth's characteristics to emphasize his own sovereignty and power as the creator. Look now at Behemoth, which I made along with you. He eats grass like an ox. See now, his strength is in his hips, and his power is in the muscles of his belly. Job 40:15-16. This emphasis on Behemoth's physical strength, especially in its hips and belly, suggests a creature of immense robustness and power, symbolizing the vitality and brute strength present in God's creation. Behemoth is described with details that accentuate its impressiveness. Its tail moves like a cedar, The tendons of its thighs are firmly intertwined, its bones are like bars of bronze, and its limbs like iron rods. Job 40:17-18. These comparisons with strong and resilient elements of nature not only highlight the physical strength of the creature, but also the solidity and durability of God's creation. Behemoth, with its powerful constitution, symbolizes the stability and resilience that characterize divine creation. It is described as a dweller by the rivers, where it refreshes itself under the lotus trees and the willows, drinking water confidently from the rivers. Job 40:21-23. This image of a gigantic creature calmly integrated into its environment underscores the harmony and order of God's creation. Behemoth, in its majesty and power, is not a destructive force but an integral and balanced part of the ecosystem that God created. The mention of Behemoth in Job is not just a display of power, but a lesson on the humility and reverence that humans should have toward God's creation. Behemoth, in all its greatness, serves as a reminder of the vastness and complexity of God's creation, inviting us to recognize our own smallness and dependence on the Creator. 5. Dragon. Dragons are symbols of evil and destructive power. Revelation 12:3-9 describes a great red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns, identified as Satan. Dragons represent the struggle between good and evil and God's ultimate victory over the forces of darkness. The dragon in Revelation is an imposing and terrifying figure, personifying chaos and malevolence. With its 7 heads and 10 horns, it is described as a creature of immense power capable of causing great destruction. Each head symbolizes the multiplicity of strategies and devices of evil, while the horns represent strength and dominion. The red color of the dragon intensifies its association with violence and bloodshed, inherent characteristics of the evil it personifies. In Revelation 12:7-9, the battle in heaven between Michael and his angels against the dragon and his angels illustrates the cosmic war between the forces of good and evil. The dragon's defeat and expulsion from heaven symbolize Satan's defeat and the limitation of his power. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil, and Satan, which deceives the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. Revelation 12:9. This passage underscores the deceptive and destructive nature of the dragon, while its expulsion reaffirms divine supremacy and the inevitable victory of good. The dragon also reappears in Revelation 20, where it is described as being imprisoned. And he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him for 1,000 years. Revelation 22. This image of imprisonment symbolizes the containment of evil and the hope for an era of peace and justice under God's reign. Beyond Revelation, the figure of the dragon is a universal symbol found in many cultures and mythologies, representing chaotic and destructive forces. However, in the biblical tradition, the dragon has a specific connotation as an adversary of God and an enemy of humanity, centering its narrative on the ongoing spiritual struggle. The apocalyptic narrative uses the dragon to emphasize the severity of the struggle between good and evil, and to assure the faithful that despite the apparent power of evil, the final victory belongs to God. The figure of the dragon, with all its strength and terror, is a powerful reminder of the resistance that good must face, but also of the certainty of divine victory over the forces of darkness. 6. Angel of the Lord. The angel of the Lord is a recurring figure in the Bible, appearing on various occasions to bring messages and execute divine will. He appears to Hagar in the desert, to Moses in the burning bush, and to Joshua before the battle of Jericho. The angel of the Lord is seen as a direct messenger of God, representing his presence and intervention. The angel of the Lord, or Malach Yahweh in Hebrew, plays a crucial role in the scriptures, acting as an intermediary between God and humans. His appearance to Hagar in Genesis 16:7-13 is one of the first examples where she encounters him in the desert while fleeing from Sarah. The angel comforts her and promises her a numerous descendants, demonstrating God's compassion and care for the marginalized. In Exodus 3:2, the angel of the Lord appears to Moses in the burning bush, an iconic event in the biblical narrative. And the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a flame of fire from the midst of a bush. And he looked, and behold, the bush was burning with fire, but the bush was not consumed. This encounter not only reveals Moses' divine mission to liberate the Israelites, but also represents God's presence in extraordinary and miraculous situations. The burning bush symbolizes the holiness and majesty of God, and the angel of the Lord is the bearer of this divine revelation. Another significant appearance occurs in Joshua 5:13-15, where the angel of the Lord presents himself as the commander of the army of the Lord before the battle of Jericho. He instructs Joshua on the holiness of the ground he is standing on, indicating the direct presence of God in the impending conquest of Canaan. This figure is described with authority and power, reinforcing the idea that he is not merely a messenger, but a manifestation of God's own divine presence. The angel of the Lord is also seen as an agent of justice and protection. In 2 Samuel, he was devastating Israel, demonstrating both God's mercy and justice. In Judges 6:12-24, he visits Gideon to call and empower a new leader for Israel, showing how God directly intervenes in human history to fulfill his purposes. Theologically, the angel of the Lord is frequently interpreted as a theophany, an appearance of God in angelic form. This interpretation is supported by the fact that, in various passages, those who encounter the angel of the Lord recognize in him the divine presence and respond with reverence and worship. For example, in Genesis 32:30, Jacob declares, "I have seen God face to face, and my life is preserved," after wrestling with a figure that many believe to be the angel of the Lord. Therefore, the angel of the Lord is not just a messenger, but a tangible expression of God's presence and action in the world. His appearances in the scriptures underline God's closeness to his people, his direct intervention in crucial moments, and his ongoing guidance and protection. 7. Nephilim. The Nephilim are mentioned in Genesis 6:4, where they are described as giants on the earth who lived in the pre-flood era. These enigmatic beings are the result of the union between the sons of God and the daughters of men. The Nephilim symbolize the mixing of the divine with the human, and are often associated with figures of great stature and power. The passage in Genesis 6:4 is brief but intriguing. "And it came to pass, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born to them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men that they were beautiful, and they took wives for themselves of all whom they chose." The identity of the sons of God has been the subject of much speculation and debate. Some interpretations suggest that these sons of God were fallen angels, while others view them as descendants from the godly line of Seth. The union between these celestial or semi-divine beings and human women resulted in the Nephilim, beings of great power and renown whose actions contributed to the widespread corruption of humanity. The name Nephilim is frequently translated as giants, but its Hebrew root can also mean those who fall, or the fallen, suggesting not only their impressive physical stature, but also a moral or spiritual downfall. The presence of the Nephilim is associated with a time of great iniquity that eventually led to the flood as an act of divine judgment. The corruption and violence that marked that period are seen as part of the legacy of these powerful beings, whose existence defied the order created by God. The Nephilim reappear in Numbers 13:33 when the spies sent by Moses to Canaan report having seen giants, the sons of Anak, descendants of the Nephilim. This legacy reinforces the idea that the Nephilim were feared for their stature and strength, and that their memory persisted in Israelite traditions. The mention of the Nephilim by the spies served to instill fear in the people of Israel, highlighting the formidable nature of their opponents in Canaan. Besides their biblical presence, the Nephilim also have a lasting impact on mythology and popular culture, often portrayed as beings of immense power and superhuman abilities, inspiring countless stories and interpretations. In some Jewish and Christian traditions, the Nephilim are viewed as a warning about the consequences of mixing the divine with the human and transgressing the boundaries set by God. In a theological context, the Nephilim represent the violation of the boundaries between the sacred and the profane. They are a symbol of rebellion against divine order and the corruption that results from such transgression. The narrative of the Nephilim reminds us of the need to respect the boundaries established by God and the consequences of ignoring them. In this way, the Nephilim serve as powerful symbols, embodying both greatness and decline. Their narrative encourages us to contemplate the intricate relationships between the divine and human realms, order and chaos, as well as the repercussions of defying God's will. If these stories captivate you, and you wish to delve deeper into the mysteries and lessons of the Bible, be sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. Share this video with friends and family so they can also discover these intriguing mystical beings. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below sharing which creature left the biggest impression on you and why. For those looking to enhance their biblical knowledge, explore our other videos and series covering topics like biblical prophecies, miracles, and historical figures. Each video presents a fresh opportunity to uncover and reflect on the marvels and mysteries of faith. Thank you for being with us. Remember, the Bible is a limitless source of wisdom and inspiration. Keep exploring, keep learning, and may every new discovery enrich your faith and understanding.